Back inside the Ultimate Dallas Sports Show, the Dallas Stars with a massive Game 3 win last night in double overtime.
41.
He's tired.
Yes.
Didn't
Game
have to hit him
3
twice,
win
sorry.
in double overtime over the Minnesota Wild last night. And this, if we go to cut number
30.
It's 30. Wyatt Johnston. Kelly knows. Kelly knows exactly which one this one is. Wyatt Johnston with the game winner. Josh Bogorod and Michelle Montaigne on the play-by-play as the Dallas Stars get the 4-3 win in double overtime.
That was Kelly.
That was me.
Oh, that was you?
Yeah.
I'm sorry. I heard the voice. It
Doesn't
was in my left ear.
doesn't recognize Kelly's voice.
Well, when it's just, it could have been either one.
Joe jumped me
Not
on
what it
this.
sounded like.
I was going to say, Joe jumped me on this because I wanted to bring this up. We call up 32 VO. This should be Wyatt's stats so far in his career at under 23 years old. He's got 6 game-winning goals in his career. Only 4 other people have more, and they have 7. So he's got what, Mike? He turns 23 in May, you said?
May 14th. He's
So-
got a little under a month.
Hopefully this run continues, and he's got a couple more cracks to get into that realm. But that is an insane pace that he's on right now.
That is a murderer's row on that stat count, by the way.
It
Yes.
really is. Yeah. He'll be tied for first come Saturday, right?
And then he'll pass. Game 5.
By the way, speaking of Game 5, I started the show railing on the NHL for their start
He did.
times. Thank you for a 7 p.m. start time. Thank you, NHL. For once, you have done us a favor here and actually had a game that'll start at whatever it'll actually be
reasonable hour.
7:18,
Yeah.
7:22, whatever they actually drop the puck, but a normal human being hour where we can all watch the game, and it can go to 3 overtimes, and still we'll be able to watch the whole thing and not be dragging the
Let's
next
keep
day.
it in regulation, though. How about
Yeah.
that?
It'd be nice, yeah.
Just
But
saying.
Listen, it's a step in the right direction. There's so much to get into from this game and the way that the Stars performed, and what a heel turn from Game 1 to now what we've seen over the course of Game 2, and to me especially Game 3. Even though this was tighter and more back and forth than Game 2 was, I felt like this was a better performance from Dallas from top. Well, at least in the first 60 minutes.
I was gonna
they
say.
got they got run roughshod in the first overtime. I don't know how they made it through the first overtime without giving up a goal, but the 60 minutes of regulation felt like a much better performance from Dallas than what we'd seen in the first 2 games.
Joe, what stuck out to you?
Well, a couple things. It was the way they dominated most of that first period, but they actually didn't come away with the lead that they deserved. Right?
Yeah.
I thought that illuminated the danger that lurks when you deal with this wild bunch. Because of the way they lean on you, because of the way they can turn you over, because of the way they get after you, especially in the corners, and they still have speed as well. The quick breakouts, just you got to watch out. And I heard Jake Ottinger talk about this. He said it's interesting and difficult as a goaltender because you may not have a whole lot of traffic for a while, but you know that big chance for them might be coming your way. And he kind of called it the most difficult thing for a netminder to deal with. So I saw that in real time with the way they were able to, score that goal. And then the other thing is just the overall hinging that can happen in these playoff series, right? Because when Esa Lindell, whatever time that was in overtime, apologies because I can't remember.
He was slapping himself in the face.
But when he was at the back door with that ability
Yes.
to win, and he kind of slid it all the way across the goal mouth.
Was that
I
Fox?
like,
That was
oh,
Fox.
oh,
Yeah. Yeah.
Oh, I'm sorry, Radek Foxa. Yes, Radek Foxa.
I know Lindell and
I'm like,
Fox look the same when you got bleary eyes at 12:30 a.m. So we're all on the same page. I agree.
This
Yeah.
sequence from
But when
Foxa,
he-
by the way, speaking of him, was unbelievable.
Oh,
Joe.
amazing.
He was without a stick
Yes.
in the power play.
He's just standing there menacingly.
Literally, he's an octopus.
But when he missed the wide open back door play, you guys, I'm like, oh, that's going to be the one we talk about when they should have won this game, and it's going to hinge the series. And oh my goodness, it's going to be awful. But they were able to weather it with a great plays like this for Foxa, and they win. And this is how you survive and advance. It doesn't matter how it looks, how it goes down, how you do it. You make it happen, and you keep going. That's the Stanley Cup playoffs, and that game was a great example of it.
That
Well,
moment with Foxa, though, I think is one that is going to live for this fan base, especially if they do go on a long run, because you need moments like this. He endeared himself to the fan base with that 2 minutes of hockey without a stick, blocking multiple shots, getting in the way however he could to prevent a goal from Minnesota in overtime. You need moments like that on a Stanley Cup playoff run if you're going to make it that far. And this is going to be kind of like that first rung on the ladder as they climb their way through this postseason. That's going to be one that if they are still playing in June, we're all going to point back to and say, hey, if not for that, they're down 2-1 in the series, and do they even win this series?
Well, and I was going to say, you talked about how, or I guess from a Stars perspective, Stars fan perspective, how rewarding it was to stay up that late and then be, gifted a win. On the other side of that is how gut-punching and demoralizing it is for the Wild. You don't even have to consider the fact that teams that lead a series 2-1 and start the series at home go on to win those series 74% of the time. So stats and numbers are already leaning in the Stars' favor, but you just think they just played, what is that, 60, like over 100 minutes of hockey, and to lose? I'm talking about if you're the Wild, like that's got to really
little over 80, but yeah.
Okay, is it?
92-10.
Okay, sorry.
92-10.
So close to 100. Sorry.
It's a rough estimate. That's fine.
But
I'm sure it
42nd
felt like
president.
100 the way the Stars were playing in that first overtime period. That's part of it.
and for them to lose when they had so many chances to win, they're at home. They're the ones who ultimately fall in a game that competitive and that long. You just have to think, how can they overcome this?
And for a guy in Marcus Foligno that was talking smoke about, hey, we want to face them 5-on-5. Wild took a lot of penalties in that game.
Yeah.
Like, I want to say it was a 6-2 penalty split heading into the third period. So they were putting themselves behind the 8 ball as much as anything. And you did see them take control when they were finally settling in. But it is poetic at the same time that they ended on a power play. Like, that is how that game unfolded. The Wild got a little bit too aggressive in certain spots, and the refs were calling it tight in a way that doesn't really quite equate to what you would expect from the Stanley Cup playoffs.
No.
But it worked in the Stars' favor, and that's the most important thing.
It is.
I had this conversation before the game, you guys, with Pete Friedman, and I was telling him I do think that one of the big things we need to follow throughout this series is how the Wild temper the way they use their physicality, and they didn't do it last night, right? They went on the other side. Marcus Foligno, we've seen him do it before in his career. He couldn't keep it together, and then, oh, by the way, he gets rocked later in the game. That was fun to watch. And bloody Foligno was the best Foligno there is, but they weren't
Has
able
something
to
to say
control
about
that.
that. I'm
you
just
guys.
saying.
They weren't able to control that, and that killed them. That hurt them, and that's what, that being the decisive point of the game made so much sense to me.
Yeah. I mean, it again, considering where things were after a 6-1 game one loss, where nothing felt like it was going right, and the Wild were the more physical and aggressive team, that is certainly evened out over the last couple games here.
Game 4 of the series, Saturday at 4:30 in Minnesota before Game 5 comes back to Dallas Tuesday night, a 7 o'clock start. The Stars with a 2-1 series lead on the Minnesota Wild.